How do fractional CMOs hit the ground running? Hi, I'm Dean Way. Welcome to the podcast, Fractional CMOs and the 90-Day Win. There's a lot of variety in how they kick off a new client engagement. In fact, there's so much variety, it's valuable to just listen to what opportunities they look for, what they tackle first, and what they wish wasn't true when they start a new project. So let's find out. Hi, guys. Okay, Michele, the first one's for you. I'm going to give you the question and then just go ahead and introduce yourself when you're done answering, and then we'll switch to Brett. So imagine that you just started a new engagement. You're the fractional CMO, right? We'll talk about early wins in a moment. But first, what problems do you typically see, or what problems do you normally look for on day one of a new engagement?
Thanks, Dean. I'm Michele Tresemer. I'm a fractional CMO. I created one of the frameworks that companies use to make sure their marketing is set up for consistent results and, of course, reduce wasted marketing spend. I've worked with 130 clients over the past 20 years, and I'm very close to getting my first doctorate degree. And I love your first question. When I kick off an engagement, the first thing I look for is allies. I want to get a sense of who the players are that are going to help or hinder the marketing efforts. It absolutely kills me when we come up with this amazing strategy, but somebody sabotages the whole project with this toxic, stuck mindset resistance. So I definitely look for those people early on. And the really surprising piece is sometimes it's an admin assistant. It could be someone in sales or IT or someone else on the C-suite team. It's amazing who can derail a project.
I think you're the first person when I asked about what problems do you look for, you went to problem people. That's interesting. Very interesting. How about you, Brett?
So Michele, I think you're spot on. Hi, everybody. Brett Schklar. I run an organization called Grow Powerful. We are a team of 30 fractional chief marketing officers who focus on B2B, primarily in tech, primarily in SaaS, helping companies. The 30 people that are on the team have been battle tested, proven, been a part of some incredibly successful exits and some growth paths. So that's me. It's a good question about like what are the issues we run into, and I'm going to go back to Michele's point. It's a people problem or a people opportunity. Unfortunately, I think that companies, when we get involved, which is where they get to a next level of maturity or something was going wrong, they think of marketing very tactically, or they think of marketing as a bunch of, random acts of marketing, right? We say the term random acts of marketing. And so part of my, what I find to be the biggest challenge with people is they've either lost confidence or lost faith in marketing, or they've never really understood what a solid marketing cadence or a solid marketing program can actually do for them. Sometimes they think, oh, it's a function of sales, and so we need to put it under the CRO or the VP of sales, or call somebody a VP of sales and marketing. And they've seen some campaigns, or they've seen some emails, or they've seen a couple of blog posts, but they haven't seen an entire strategy put together. And so that's one of the biggest problems. That's one of the areas that's actually the third stop on my, 6 things to really get rolling in the first 90 days, is finding that alignment, which means finding that understanding.
Okay, so that's good. So let's talk about that then. What kind of like low-hanging fruit or early wins do you like to do or like to see in the first 90 days?
Yeah, good question. So the second part of the 6 phases of getting things started is the assessment.
Right.
And so step 1 is access, getting access to everything. Step 2 is assessment. And so looking in every one of the tools you now have access to, benchmarking against industry, benchmarking against the vision and the goals of what the CEO or president or the leadership team's, goals and vision are, putting all that together and really giving a true state of the union of where things are versus where we wanted them to be. And that's one of the most important things in the first 90 days, because in that little period of time, you get to sort of say, okay, it was done wrong before, because you don't have to be blamed for, all the things, all the sins of the past. And you can be your hero to say you want to put it together. But in order to do that, you have to sort of say, here's the delta. Here's where I see things today. Here's where I see things can be. And we need to close that gap.
How about you, Michele? What early wins or low-hanging fruit for the first 90 days?
Yeah, Brett, I love that. A gap analysis, hands down. That is so key. Uh, Before a gap analysis, that first win I look for is getting alignment just in what the founder or CEO wants. And I know it sounds so basic, but it drives me nuts when I start an engagement and I get really excited on that kickoff call and I say, great, what do you want for your company? Tell me your big dream. What are you trying to accomplish? And then there's crickets. And I have to push. It's like, okay, well, if you want to get acquired by Microsoft in 3 years, the plan we build is going to be very, very different than if your dream is to pass this business on to your grandkids. So
Right.
once I talk that through, they usually come around and see, why is this CMO person even asking this? Just go do your TikTok videos. It's like, no, we need that bigger picture. So that big first win is getting them to agree on something.
I don't know why, but I had a mental image of someone, my age, and then someone saying, "No, let's do our TikTok videos."
So I
don't
think
know
this is a great idea. We need to, here's what we do is we actually get ChatGPT and Dolly, generative
that. Yeah.
AI to say, um, give me a script for TikTok video to teach a CEO or a business owner the fundamentals and values of marketing, and do it in the style of Beastie Boys, and then
Yeah.
see what it
Love
comes
it.
up with, so we can present it to the companies.
Oh my.
That's amazing.
gosh. Okay, so let's pivot a little bit. What do you find? Because you've both done plenty of projects, plenty of engagements, I should say, with plenty of clients, right? What do clients normally not see or not know about marketing or fractional CMOs until you start working with them? Michele.
Fantastic. One of the big surprising things when I start an engagement is just the base level understanding of what a CMO is. As in, CMOs are meant to be that C-suite reality check, and they make amazing soundboards for sure.
Right.
They're strategic thinkers. It's a thinking person's game. It's not all about the execution. I hate it when people try to hire a unicorn, but they don't want to pay the money for a unicorn. And when you're talking SMB, someone tries to hire me all the time for, oh, we want all that strategy, but I also need you to manage everybody. And I need you to actually go edit the website, update our DNS records. Like, it drives me crazy. So yes, if they could understand, CMO is meant to be high level.
Okay. How about you, Brett? What do you wish they knew, or what do they not know?
Yeah, and it goes back to that idea of random acts of marketing. I think that what people don't see is the machine that marketing can be. The repetitive, the process. They think about it as a big campaign, a big Super Bowl ad, a big this or a big that. And the reality is, the sexiness is in the boring. It's in the
No grand
repetitiveness.
gestures. That
It's
grand
in
gestures
it's
are
in
not your
it,
salvation, I guess.
it's in the constant consistency and continuity, and trying new things, A/B testing, sprinkling in new ideas and test stuff and break stuff. But you got to make it a part of that machine. And when light bulbs come on, so what is it they don't see until they see it? The light bulbs come on when they see that when I'm doing a rolling 90-day plan, I'm not saying let's go get, Russell Wilson as our spokesperson, which I'm guessing would be pretty cheap right now. But I'm not saying let's go get a spokesperson, let's go spend a bunch of money, but let's try things and test them. And when we see something that works, we're going to double down on it and do a little bit more. And that machine and that repetitiveness and that cadence and that agile approach, to marketing, but being very consistent with it. They're kind of surprised that we can operate something as uniformly and almost in a boring way as financial reports every week.
Right. Or a production process.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Something where
Can
you're trying to drive variability out of it.
Can I tack onto that really quick, Brett? Because I think that's awesome. What I see is that they have to be a learning organization. So I know I always get asked, like, what's going to be the return on our blah, blah, blah. It's like, if you're a learning organization, you're going to have little 1% wins all over the place. And you're never going to ask me that again. But it's that learning shift, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And Dean, not to, I know we're kind of derailing and the inmates are on in the asylum now, but this is something I said, you mentioned, Michele, the 1%. When people ask me what's the magic to marketing, I said, it's 100 different 1%. And that gets you to 100% of your goals. If you can do 100 different 1%, you're there. And so I think that's a really good way to put it, Michele.
Yeah.
Sort of a growing cumulative advantage.
Yep.
That's hard for a competitor to overcome. Okay, so let's say I'm a CEO and maybe I've had a CMO in the organization already. That person is gone, or I've never had like a CMO. Like, what do I need to understand about fractional CMOs to get to squeeze every last bit of value out of one? What do I need to know and understand about fractional CMOs?
So I'll tell you what I tell people because of the caliber of the people that I have on my team.
Right.
What I tell people is this is not because there's a lot of people who say, I'll be your fractional CMO and it will save you a ton of money versus a full-time CMO. I don't say that. I say you're going to get access to people who may have never been on your radar because of what they've done, what they've accomplished, and where they can get you, but you can get them on a fractional basis, which may or may not fit within your budget, which means you might need to reevaluate your budget. But cost savings is not a reason why you want a fractional or interim CMO, especially if you had somebody in place and for some reason or another, they did not work out. Now, for a first time, you mentioned two things, right? The first time CMO or replacement, a fractional as a replacement to a CMO. First time CMO is very different. There are people on my team that are incredible at building, the marketing foundation, and they can start from 0 or 1 and take it to a 10 or 11. There are others who would never want to start at 0. And what they really want to do is they want to take something that's in place and really up-level it. Or, we've got one person on our team and she specializes in maintaining the ship while somebody may be on a sabbatical or paternity or maternity leave, or, has a health reason they need to take some time off. And so their gift is not messing things up, keeping the ship going and making sure they're not trying to reinvent the wheel while somebody's out. So it really depends on what people need.
That's amazing. I want to piggyback on that. Brett, again, brilliant. Agreed. People are wired very differently. So there's setup people like me. I am wired for that big push. Let's get everything together and build the thing. Like that gets me up in the morning. I cannot do the day to day. It drives me nuts. I get bored very fast. Not wired that way. Now, on paper, if you're hiring a fractional CMO or CMO for the first time, my resume probably looks identical to the other type of wiring. So it's really important to ask up front, what are you gifted at? And someone like me who does, the setup, that big push, I know I'm out of there after a certain time period. So being upfront about that just makes everything go so much more smoothly.
I'd never thought about that, Brett, as like a particular skill set. But you guys, you know what Chesterton's fence is? The concept of Chesterton's fence. Basically, it says if you come across something that someone else built and you don't know why it's there or why they built it, then you should not tear it down until you understand why it's there. And to me, I'd never thought about someone whose specialty was coming in and ensuring that everything continued to work and it wasn't like a flaming wreck or dumpster fire when the regular person came back. But you would have to understand and be really good at understanding how other people or organizations built a process in order to not break it for some period. That's a different way of thinking that I hadn't really thought about before.
The number one thing it requires is to leave your ego behind the door, because it takes a special someone who isn't trying to establish themselves or make a name for themselves. It is someone who says, I have no ego, and whenever I come into a meeting, I'm a substitute teacher, right? And so therefore you're not trying to change the curriculum.
But you're also not there to just play a movie for the students that day and they get nothing done.
But you are a leader, somebody who is a leader and can have those conversations and maybe can help people grow and get to the next level as well, but not to replace, but to support another person's vision.
Yeah. I'd never thought about that before. That's such a unique skill set. Okay. So I have a couple more questions to finish this up. The first is this. Imagine a scenario where there's a CEO and you're being brought in as a fractional CMO. They also want to hire a fractional head of sales. what are you like looking for, or what advice or guidance are you giving the CEO about hiring a fractional head of sales that's going to mesh with marketing, as opposed to just sales as a silo? Like, if you had the chance to hire or be instrumental in the hiring of the head of sales, like, what are you looking for? What are you recommending?
Do I get to go first on this one?
You can go first on this one. Yes,
All
ma'am.
right. That's a great question. I mean, in my fantasy world, if I had input on that head of sales position, I would want someone who knows how to play nice with marketing. And what I mean by that is when I'm going into any kind of SaaS, tech, B2B, I work the funnel from both ends. So I actually start with the conversion and loyalty areas, figure out what's working, where the holes are, because I do not want to fill a leaky bucket.
Right.
In order to do that, I need to be hand in hand with whoever's running sales. I need to know, where are our holes? How can marketing sit on top of what sales is doing to enable all of that effort? Like, are the demos crap? Is the product bad? I worked with one client. I found out a month in, like I finally got my hands on stuff, that their support was falling apart and customers were just leaving. So I don't want to spend a ton of time and money building all these leads if they're just going to be gone. So someone who knows how to leverage marketing and play nice.
Right. How about you, Brett?
So one of the greatest conversations I've ever had in my life, and it might have actually brought tears to my eyes, was when I was talking to a earlier stage CEO, and they said two things that really made my heart sing, and I would have proposed had I not been married already. And it was, number one, we're not building this to be around forever. And so the idea of fractional leadership across multiple disciplines makes a lot of sense to us. And I was like, oh, this is the one of the greatest days of my life to hear somebody say that. And the second one was, he said, the other thing is that while we want to find a fractional salesperson and we think we might know who it is, we don't want to bring them on until we've had marketing leadership in place for at least 3 to 6 months. And I was like, oh my God, this is the greatest day of my life. And I was like, okay, tell me why. And he said, I know enough about sales and I know enough about marketing that one of the key functions of marketing is to build a foundation that the salespeople can leverage. And if I bring on a salesperson and I don't have that foundation, I don't have the pipeline started, I don't have the sales enablement tools, I don't have the message, I don't have the story, I don't have the buyer personas and understanding all those things. If I don't have that in place, salespeople are going to be angry and they're going to leave. And so what he said was, and it was one of the most thoughtful, smartest people I knew, that I was actually disappointed to hear he didn't want to grow this thing to, $1 trillion, because it was the first time I've seen a CEO who thinks logically, because we're all very emotional creatures. And as a CEO, we need to get the sales in, and sales. If you don't drive revenue, you don't have a business. Right. And so they want to build a sales program first when it's not ready. And this person, again, made me cry twice in one conversation about fractional for everything, and sales would be useless without some good marketing foundation.
I worked in marketing and worked in sales, and the outlook, the view is so different. Like, the best advice I ever got for what to do on any given day when I worked in enterprise sales is just look for the closest dollar. Like, it's really like, don't go too far. Don't think too far down. You're at your quarter, but ultimately it's just whatever deal you think you could close first or get close to, then that's what you go for today.
Yep.
Like, that's it. That's as far ahead. It's like you have a very weak flashlight in the dark and you're only going as far as that flashlight will take you. That's it. Okay. So let me ask this sixth and I think final question is, I don't know if you guys can hear that, but it is what it is. So we've all been on calls. Everybody in every kind of business, especially like small business, we've all been on these sort of discovery or intro kind of calls where within a minute or two of your 15 or 30-minute free consultation call that this person should not be trying to hire someone like you. So what are the signs that a client should not be hiring a fractional CMO or is definitely not ready for one? What's a red flag?
Who's the first one on this one?
I think that's you.
Okay. Hot damn. All right. So when to tell them to F off. Okay. So, boy, the list is long and distinguished. Now there's a couple of things. First of all, one of the red flags is my board of directors is telling me I need marketing.
Oh God.
Boom. Set up for failure.
Yeah.
Zero appreciation for marketing. And by the way, they don't need to appreciate marketing, but they need to allow it the space to show, to create and to demonstrate that appreciation. So that's one of the red flags. Second is we need a marketing person because we need to increase our sales within the next 90 days. Now, there's transactional like SaaS, where you can actually do some new campaigns and get it going. When it's an enterprise company with a 12 to 18 month sales cycle that says we need marketing to help us get deals done between now and the end of the year, that's not only a red flag, that is a, we're not even going to look at that flag. Those are two of the big ones. I don't see that as often anymore. I used to see that a lot, but that's a challenge. The third one that I'm surprised I don't see more of. So in marketing, and marketing is one of the first places where AI really, truly transforms the discipline. And this is not a future speak. This is, if you are not well-versed in AI, you should not be in marketing as of right now, period. If you don't know how to write prompts, then you are falling way behind. And so one of the things I look for, and I'm actually exclusively looking for it now, is when I talk about a fractional CMO using the power of generative AI for transforming a marketing program, if they're not lighting up like a Christmas tree and getting excited about what that means for them, their scalability, their operational efficiencies, and them to outflank competitors, if they don't get their light bulbs turned on, and I can't demonstrate enough to get them to turn their light bulbs on after a 30, 45-minute conversation, they're going to be left behind. And so that's my new litmus test to see if they're going to be a good client or not, if they understand or appreciate the transformative impact of generative AI.
What do you think,
I love
Michele?
that. That's fantastic. I do want to agree on the why they want to hire a CMO in the first place. If they don't have a reason, so when I ask, why do you even want one? If they say anything other than they want one for them, like if they say, my wife said I need it, my niece who just graduated college said I need to do this. Like, no, my favorite is the networking events, or I was at a golf game and my buddy hired this fractional CMO and said it's wonderful, so I need one. I hear that so often, and it's very cringe. But Brett, you made me think of a more personal red flag for me that makes me want to tell people to F off. If I ask them to tell me about their product and they do not light up and get excited, if there is zero excitement about their company in general, I know personally I'm going to be a horrible fit. Because I want to like nerd out with somebody and get really excited about how do we take this to the next level and let's brainstorm. Right. But if they're just, nope, I'm churning and burning, and it's just all about the investors, like it's not a fit for me personally. So I think making sure there's a good match there is really important on values.
You bring up a good point, and I think there's a difference between, the founder CEOs or the owner CEOs or the family CEOs. They really need to have that. As we've been moving up market to more PE backed, private equity backed companies, once a private equity firm steps in, one of the things they tend to do is bring in an operational CEO. And operational CEOs are not going to express that passion. They're not going to express that excitement about the product. They're going to take a very, operational and spreadsheet approach to the business. And I hadn't really thought about it in that way until, Michele, you sort of talked about that. But we're moving into a world where that product passion or that service passion isn't there. And it is different. It's a soulful engagement versus a not soulless, right? I don't want to say it's soulless, but it is, it really is that, it is a business versus people. And so
living the story of the business.
Michele, with your focus on the SMB, on the B2B SMB, you're really connected to to that passion. And if it's not there, it walk away. For me, and I'm realizing this more and more, that passion isn't necessarily an indicator of success with marketing. There's other factors, a lack of appreciation for marketing and a lack of understanding what marketing can do. But that passion, it's funny, I haven't thought about that much, but when somebody comes in, they're being told by their, private equity, sugar mamas and sugar daddies, what needs to happen. And that passion just isn't there.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, for you guys doing your work, is that like is it just a qualitative difference in experience, or is it a quantitative difference in experience where like you just can't do as much as well with this is just a system, marketing's something I plug in as a cog, it needs to exist, versus like I really live like the story of my company? Like, is it qualitative and quantitative, or just qualitative, and you could actually like deliver more or less the same results?
Yeah, and I apologize if I'm speaking out of term on this one, or out of turn. To me, even if the CEO doesn't have the passion for the product, if they have an appreciation or they have the experience of being a leader enough to say, even if I don't understand this, I have to put my trust and faith in my people.
Mm-hmm.
And if a fractional CMO is one of their people, their people, then there is an opportunity for success. So then it really comes to, is the CEO a true leader, or are they a manager? And how does that work with the marketing function? And that's a basic leadership principle. That's a basic business principle. And I think that that impacts, full-time CMOs. It impacts fractional CMOs. It also impacts the sales leadership, the finance leadership, the HR leadership, all those different things as well.
What do you think,
That's
Michele? Qualitative or quantitative?
It's a mix. And Brett, you just made me think about that leadership quality. So if it's not their company, but their mandate is to build it and grow, if they are a true leader, there is some level of excitement that trickles down. So yes, I can accomplish the same results. However, it's 10 times harder if the sales engineers are not on board with where things are going. So if it's just a manager and they're not getting everybody riled up, it makes my job really, really hard. Like, no joke, I've had IT people completely sabotage and tank complete rebrands because they just didn't want to take the time to update the DNS. Like, little nerdy stuff. Like, it's just red tape all over the place. And I feel like I don't have that support. A true leader can definitely build that excitement and have that roadmap and get everybody on board. And then it's successful.
Yep.
Well, that's it for us for time, I think, guys. Brett, how do people find you?
Find me on LinkedIn, Brett Schklar, Schklar. Go to my website, growpowerful.io. Hit me up at brett@growpowerful.io. Carrier pigeons still work. I think they can still find me. Those are the ways.
All right. How about you, Michele?
LinkedIn's the best place. Last name, Tresemer. It's a weird one. I'm easy to find. And my website is foundationsfirstmarketing.com.
And thanks, everyone, for watching today. Keep an eye out for the next episode. I'm Dean Way, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Sounds good. Thanks, Dean.